Warning: this story is inspired by local folklore. All names and visuals are fictional. In the heart of Imo State, Nigeria, back in the early 2000s, there was a town called Orlu. It was a place where tradition and modernity walked hand in hand, where the dust from the harmattan winds settled on everything, giving the world a hazy, golden glow. Nestled within this town was St. Mary's Secondary School, a place of learning that held more secrets than its library held books. The school itself felt like a relic from another time. Its classroom blocks were old, the paint peeling in the sun, revealing the gray concrete beneath. The chalkboards were perpetually dusty, holding the ghosts of countless lessons. The students, in their simple, almost vintage-looking school uniforms, were the lifeblood of this old institution, their laughter and chatter filling the air. Kayamika was a quiet girl, easily overlooked in the bustling crowd of students. Slim, with rich, dark skin and her hair always neatly styled in two plaits, she moved with a calm grace that belied the storm brewing within her. Kayamika was a good student, always respectful, her uniform impeccably neat. No one, not even her closest friends, could have ever imagined the chaos she was about to unleash. It was a day like any other. The sun was already climbing high in the sky, beating down on the assembly ground. The students stood in neat lines, their voices rising and falling as they sang the morning hymns, their principal droning on about discipline and academic excellence. Kayamika collapsed, her eyes rolling back. Students gasped, thinking she just fainted. Two teachers rushed to her side, trying to help her up. As they touched her, a deep, ancient voice burst out, not Kayamika's. It was chilling, sending shivers through everyone nearby. The voice laughed, echoing like it came from the ground. It twisted into a creepy old woman, a child's whisper, then a man's roar. So many voices from one girl. Panic exploded. Students screamed and scattered, their neat lines dissolving into a terrified mob. Teachers, faces pale with shock, struggled to hold Kayamika down as she thrashed, her small frame surprisingly strong, tossing them aside. The air was thick with fear. In the chaos, two figures stood out. Mr. Okafor, Kayamika's dad, a strict history teacher. He was shouting orders, trying to restore calm, but his eyes were wide with a fear that betrayed his composed exterior. The other was Uchenna, a senior student, the head boy, whose stern gaze usually commanded respect. He stood frozen, his face a mask of disbelief and horror, watching the scene unfold. The voices from Kayamika became clear, no longer random sounds, but sharp accusations. Thief! You who smile at the children while you steal the money meant for their books. In your pocket? Building a new house while kids read torn pages? Mr. Okafor froze. The funds for the new library. Where are they, Okafor? Now, the explanation was being screamed from the mouth of a possessed girl. The teacher's hands began to tremble, his carefully constructed reputation crumbling in seconds. He tried to speak, to deny it, but only a choked sound came out. The voice from Kayamika wasn't finished. It twisted, becoming sharp and feminine, and its attention turned to Uchenna, the head boy. And you, the righteous one, you lead the younger ones in prayer in the morning and lead them into a secret cult at night. The black axes call your name, don't they, Uchenna? You wear the school badge on your chest and their mark on your soul. You think no one sees your secret meetings by the old water tank? You think the shadows keep your secrets? Chaos erupted. Uchenna, who had always been the model student, stumbled back as if he had been physically struck. His friends in the senior class exchanged panicked glances. The whispers grew louder, turning into open accusations. The veil of normalcy had been torn away, revealing the ugly secrets festering beneath the school's surface. Fear and confusion were everywhere. Students huddled together, pointing and whispering, their eyes darting from the writhing Kayamika to the exposed teacher and the terrified head boy. For men struggled to carry her away, her strength finally fading as chaos reigned. They took her to the school clinic, a small, isolated building at the edge of the school compound. The principal, a man looking 10 years older than he had that morning, ordered the clinic locked. A nurse, a woman named Sister Agnes, was tasked with watching over her. The school day was officially canceled. Parents were called to come and take their children home, but many lingered, drawn by the morbid curiosity of it all, speaking in hushed, fearful tones about what they had just witnessed. Sickness or witchcraft? Everyone's got a theory. The story of the possessed schoolgirl of Orlu was already spreading like wildfire through the town. As night fell, a heavy, oppressive silence descended upon St. Mary's Secondary School. The once lively compound was now deserted and eerie. The moon cast long, skeletal shadows from the old buildings. Inside the small clinic, a single dim bulb flickered, casting a sickly yellow light. Kayamika lay on a narrow bed, unnaturally still. Her eyes were open, staring blankly at the ceiling. Sister Agnes sat in a chair in the corner, clutching a rosary, her lips moving in silent, frantic prayer. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, not just by the girl on the bed, but by something else, something in the room with them. Every so often, a sound would break the silence. A low growl that seemed to come from Kayamika's throat, even though her lips didn't move. A faint scratching echoed from the walls, while whispers danced just outside the door. The air grew cold, and Sister Agnes pulled her cardigan tighter around herself, her gaze fixed on the girl. Then, for a moment, under the flickering light, she thought she saw it. A faint, red glow in Kayamika's eyes, like dying embers. She blinked, and it was gone. Was it just a trick of the light? Or was the nightmare just beginning? Kayamika was trapped in the dark clinic, and the entity inside her was just getting started. This was only the beginning. The small school clinic in Orlu was shrouded in an uneasy quiet. The early morning light filtered through the windows, casting long shadows that seemed to dance with the hushed whispers of the gathered teachers and parents. Kayamika lay still on the cot, her face pale in the dim light. Her dad, Mr. Okafor, and her friend Uchenna stood close, worry etched on their faces. They had been there all night, hoping, praying for an answer. Suddenly, the clinic door creaked open. All heads turned to see an elderly man step inside, his presence commanding a quiet respect. It was Father Anselm, a local priest known throughout Orlu for his wisdom and calm demeanor. He wasn't alone. 2 young assistants followed him, carrying a small bag and a Bible. Mr. Okafor rushed forward, his voice a desperate plea. "Father, thank you for coming. We don't know what to do. God is with us. Let us pray." The air grew thick with anticipation as Father Anselm approached the cot. He motioned for his assistants to stand on either side, and together they began to pray. Their voices, low and melodic, filled the room with ancient words of faith and hope. The onlookers bowed their heads, joining in the silent prayer, their collective hope a palpable force in the small space. As the prayers intensified, the single light bulb in the clinic began to flicker erratically. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Then, Kayamika stirred. Her eyes, still closed, fluttered. A low sound escaped her lips, not her own girlish voice, but something different. It was the gravelly tone of an old man, a voice that seemed to carry the weight of generations. It spoke of a land dispute. A hidden boundary marker moved under the cover of darkness between 2 neighboring families who had been friends for decades. A few villagers exchanged stunned glances. They knew of this conflict, a secret feud that had been simmering just beneath the surface of their community. The voice shifted again, this time to a soft, weeping female tone. It lamented a broken promise, a dowry paid but a marriage that never was, causing a silent rift between 2 prominent households. The details were so precise, so intimate, that those who knew the families involved could only stare in disbelief. How could this child know these things? These were secrets whispered only behind closed doors, burdens carried in silence. The flickering light cast dancing shadows on the walls, making the faces of the onlookers appear distorted, their expressions a mix of fear and awe. Father Anselm's eyes were shut, hands clasped tight, his prayers getting more intense. He seemed to be in a world of his own, locked in a spiritual battle that no one else could see. The voices coming from Kayamika continued to change, revealing one hidden truth after another. It spoke of a stolen harvest, a debt unpaid, a false accusation that had ruined a good man's name. Each revelation was like a stone dropped into the still waters of the community, sending ripples of shock and understanding through the crowd. It was as if the village's collective conscience was speaking through this young girl. The tension in the room was almost unbearable. Some people began to weep silently. Others held on to each other for support. Mr. Okafor watched his daughter, tears streaming down his face, torn between terror for his child and amazement at the truths being unveiled. The phenomena were not violent or aggressive, but profoundly unsettling. It felt less like a possession and more like a vessel, a channel for long-buried pains and injustices to find a voice. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. A final, deep sigh escaped Kayamika's lips, and she went limp, collapsing back onto the cot. The flickering light stabilized, casting a steady, warm glow over the room. A profound silence fell, broken only by the soft sounds of breathing. Everyone held their breath, watching, waiting. After a few moments that felt like an eternity, Kayamika's eyelids fluttered open. "Mama? Papa?" she whispered, her voice once again her own. She was calm and confused, asking, "What just happened? Why is everyone here?" Mr. Okafor rushed to her side, gathering her into his arms. "My child, my Kayamika," he sobbed, holding her tight. The villagers watched, their minds reeling. They didn't know what to make of what they had just witnessed. Was it a miracle? A warning? They looked at each other, a new understanding passing between them. The secrets were out, not in a manner of gossip or accusation, but as a plea for reconciliation and justice. Slowly, the crowd began to disperse, leaving the family in peace. They walked out into the dawn, the sky painted with the soft colors of a new day. The sun rose over Orlu, its golden rays touching the rooftops and trees, symbolizing a fresh start. We see scenes of life returning to its normal rhythm, but with a subtle change. Students filed back into their classrooms, their chatter a little more subdued, a little more thoughtful. The villagers who had heard the revelations now faced a choice: to ignore what they had heard or to seek healing and truth. Father Anselm, his duty done, walked slowly away from the school, his assistants by his side. He didn't look back. He simply walked toward the rising sun, a solitary figure of faith against the backdrop of a waking town. His calm departure left a lingering question: what truly happened in that room? Was it a spiritual intervention or the deep, collective psyche of a community finding a voice through an innocent child? The answer remained as mysterious as the morning mist that still clung to the hills of Orlu. The events of that morning would become a local legend, a story told and retold, not as a tale of horror, but as a profound lesson. It served as a reminder that secrets, no matter how deeply buried, have a way of coming to light, and that community healing often begins in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes, truth finds its way through the most unexpected voices. Thank you for journeying with us through this story. If it moved you or made you think, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more tales that explore the depths of culture and human experience. Until next time, stay curious and compassionate.